Hey y'all, so it's a Wednesday, swim practice is cancelled, I don't really have any homework, and I thought I'd take advantage of this time by finishing the trinity of videos that I'm going to make with the most loved Tokusatsu video. Now if you haven't, be sure to watch my most hated Tokusatsu video and my most controversial Tokusatsu video. I've said before that more Toku shows are liked than hated, which brought me to a little bit of a problem making this video. This video will really only be going over the shows that are put into a pinnacle spotlight in their respective series. Like, in my opinion, with these shows, you always hear fans complimenting it. Well, not everyone, because some people do dislike these shows and more power to them. But nonetheless, I'm going to be going over these shows and saying common reasons why I see love thrown their way. And I'll also have a thing at the end for the shows that almost made it onto here. And now, we go. I think the love for Build has gotten to the point where almost everyone who's new to Tokusatsu sees Build as one of their first shows. The mysterious and investigative start that the show had seemed to have people hooked at first sight. Some people did think the concept of the skywall was kind of stupid, but it didn't really go beyond that in terms of negativity, of course, for most people. Gimmickly, the show also seems to resonate well. I mean, the way the forms went were quite complex. But then, when we got to the core center of the show, oh boy, a lot of people really got invested. Many felt that the Civil War and the characters' moments really struck gold. In particular, there was one episode that involved Sento and Alba. And some people thought that this was the most emotionally powerful moment in all of Tokusatsu. Now, people got a little more mixed when it came to the third arc with Evil. Some people liked the suspenseful and hopeless end of the world plot while others didn't. But when it came to the physical end, most people seemed to like it as they viewed the compromise as clever, the symbolism as pretty great, and the sacrifices as pretty powerful. As for the characters, more positivity goes towards Banjo and Sento's way, where Grease and Evil are more controversial, and Gentoku seems to be a character that most people liked until he became a just whatever character. Many people also say something that was defining about this show was the surprises. This early era of the Power Rangers franchise wasn't seen as one way or another until this grand finale. Off the bat, most people seem to like the episode plots. Then there's our cast of Rangers, which is one new Ranger as well as 4 of the returning cast from last season, and their interactions are usually seen as very well written and cared about. And as for the characters just themselves, most people think they're pretty likable, which is a step upwards from the mixed reception for 4 of them in Turbo. And people love the villains, especially with Astronema, Ecliptor, and the Psycho Rangers. But the biggest thing I see it get praised for is how well it brings everything together from the first 7 seasons of Power Rangers and finally brings a conclusion in an ending. The ending usually being seen as amazing, by the way. I find the most praise around this show to be the characters. Many in the first few episodes may have thought of Takeru as a little bit of an ass, but in the end, many thought that the way his true colors were brought out progressively showed that he is a great Red who really cares about his team. In fact, many say that he's one of the best Reds. As for the rest of the characters, people seem to really like them, all feeling that they have this dynamic and each bring one element to the team. The villains of the show are seen as really well written. Well, maybe more like side villains, just cause big bads like Dokoku just don't cut it sometimes. At least with most people, of course. And as for aesthetically, well, Hao is a meme, but most people aside from that seem to love SHINKENGER's designs. But at least someone who watched this video didn't like the designs of SHINKENGER because eyes are a lot more different than how people conceive shows. And a lot of love is given to the direction SHINKENGER's story goes in. Similarly to In Space, this was also supposed to be the last season of Power Rangers. In response, the writers put more dedication into the show than usual. What we got is a show that is seen as an example by many people as to how to do Power Rangers now. When watching this show, one will notice that comparatively to every single other Power Rangers show, it's a lot more dark and dystopian. If the mixed reputation of Kamen Rider Fies taught us anything, it's that always in kids media will people be saying that they want something darker, but it doesn't always work with every fan. But the common reasoning as to why it works here is that the story and its plot twists emphasize and bring out the darkness in a good way. Dr. K's connection to the Venjix and Dylan and Tanaya's storylines seem to usually get praise and have kept fans in to see what happens next episode. While Dylan does seem to be the main focus of the show, all characters did get focus, and that focus was usually seen as very touching. And many will say the ending screams out Power Rangers. The biggest, most universal complaint that I see is that the show should have been longer. This show does have one thing that stands out as one of the worst characters in all of Sentai in Ko. Especially in his beginning, he's just seen as an unlikable brat. In fact, almost all Toku fans have seen this clip at least once. But aside from that, all the characters are seen to have had really well written development, making it feel like one of the least fillery Sentai. It's seen to have good humor, reveals, dark moments. The fight choreography and overall action is also hugely praised. While the twists in the ending aren't seen as one way or another good or bad, what leads up to the ending is seen as some of the peak storytelling in all of Sentai. This season was seen as a big push away from what many people would have expected. First off, it's fruit themed, and secondly, its plot goes from kids and dance teams bickering to trying to stop a corporation, to trying to stop an invasive species from taking over everything, to trying to become a god in a battle royale. But most people liked its uniqueness and felt that its progression really helped to its benefit. The reception for the characters is positive. People like Kota as a main protagonist, like Kaito's anti-hero dynamic. Michi, he's controversial, but his contributions to the story are seen as amazing. And the villains for this show usually all seem to convincingly want power. Or at least a lot of people will say that. And the overall direction Gaim tries to go in from youth to adulthood seems to resonate really well. The ending symbolism of war also really touched a lot of people, although the physical ending isn't always perceived as the best. Yeah, a lot of people love this season. Ryugai and Kaori's love plot is a big reason why it rose to popularity. To be fair, some people absolutely bash the shit out of this love triangle, but most love it. The reception for Vyram as a whole is pretty good. Our heroes this time around are usually perceived as doing what they try to do best. And as a whole, people just really like JETMAN's tone. From what I can see, this seems to be the most shouted out as amazing Ultraman show. Its story and world building are seen as some of the best in the Ultra series. Daigo and Rena's relationship is seen as sweet, and them as characters are seen to move the plot with Ultraman TIGA forward. I've also seen the episodes be described as slice of life and pretty great. And most describe TIGA's action as classical and awesome. A lot of people call this the celebration that all celebrations should be like. Villain's story and atmosphere are all considered great, but what makes it probably now the #1 Super Sentai fan favorite all boils down to two things. First off is the GOKAIGERs themselves. While they don't get that much development, many will say that they're so full of personality and characterized already to the point that whatever it is that they're doing is just really enjoyable. And second is how its legacy is played out. Since there's so many tributes, not everyone likes every tribute, but most of these are considered to be absolutely masterful and add something to their original series. And then there's the entire remaking henshin sequences and action and stuff like that. Everyone has their favorite Sentai, and seeing the feel of it be brought back by this show just hits special to most. Although GOKAIGER does get some slack for bringing Super Megaforce into this world, but most people don't blame it. This is easily the most well-received cycle for Sentai and Power Rangers. On Time Force's hand, the beginning with Alex and Jen's relationship as well as the introduction of Wes's character was viewed as one of the best ways to start a show. On top of that, people like how the episodes have great acting, can relate to real-world problems, and develop the characters pretty good. Well, it's not objective that it does those things, but that's the common viewpoint. Time Ranger shares a lot of similarities to Time Force's stories. It's praised for great characters, great development, great villains, and great plot. People also praise it for its balance between funny and serious moments. Then we get to the endings, which contrast each other, with Time Ranger being hailed as how to do a darker ending and Time Force being hailed as how to do a happier ending. Or happier because the resolution is still saddish. The biggest thing to talk about when it comes to looking at Double and its praise is Philip and Shotaro, who are often described as some of the best main riders ever. The story-based episodes and the investigation episodes are also both praised for being just a fun ride. The biggest praise though is the ending arc, which leads up to episode 48, often considered to be one of the best episodes in all of Toku. What happened to Philip in this episode and Shotaro's reaction got a lot of people on the floor crying. The actual ending kind of ruined it for some, but most people believed episode 48 to still hold the same power that it did and be the true ending of Kamen Rider Double. And here's the list of honorable mentions. Of course, there's other like Toku, but these are the ones that came the closest to being on here. And that's it. I hope you guys liked that video. If you're new to Tokusatsu, be sure to check out my channel's description, or if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, be sure to check out my channel's description. And just for fun, I want to hear from you guys. If you want to comment anything, please be sure to let me know what your guys' favorite Toku show of all time is in the comments down below. And with that, take care.